Let me first say congratulations to our boys Harambee Stars. You made us proud. The future is bright. It can never be brighter. Thank you for uniting the country. Now to the country. The eagle has landed. They said the king is back. Rigathi Gachagua arrived in the country yesterday from his 6-week tour in the United States. The man of God, the truthful man, the son of Mau Mau, was bold enough to land like an eagle. It had been feared that he would be arrested. But he chose to announce openly the day he would be arriving, and he came in broad daylight. So like an eagle, he has landed. To the reception. First, it was a daring reception. There are people, his supporters, especially political leaders, and other supporters of some level, who did even what Raila's supporters have not been able to do. When Raila has come into the country, especially the famous Baba While You Are Away, when he came from his sabbatical, he was met by many people, big numbers, but none of those people were able to penetrate the airport. Gachagua's supporters got right into the airport, a testimony of the determination, the seriousness, and how daring they were. They were so daring and in such a numbers that they were able to make the police let them do their thing, which was to welcome their king, as they say. But as to the overall reception, the numbers were nowhere near the CEO of humanity, Deputy Party Leader Malala had talked about. And many people are asking, what happened so that Rigathi Gachagua did not summon the numbers? Of course, there were many. Those were not few people. But they were nowhere near the overwhelming numbers that people expected. There are many reasons. First of all, people were scared by Murkomen. Secondly, people were scared when very early in the day, goons were spotted on the road carrying all manner of crude weapons, the trademark horse sticks, mpini ya jembe. Nobody in their right mind would want to confront such a goons. But overall, I had the impression that the planning would have been better. The mobilization could have been greater. The reception would have been more overwhelming. But we must give it to the man of God, the son of Mau Mau, to be able to pull out that feat of yesterday is indeed a testimony to the sort of person he is, namely a tough politician. And that anybody who has been underrating him needed no further proof that Rigathi Gachagua is no pushover. The statement from the absence and the reception yesterday. While Gachagua was away, the opposition all but died. There wasn't much activity from the political benches in the opposition side, on the opposition side, which is a clear indication, like we have always said, Gachagua is among those politicians who now shake the political landscape in this country. That Gachagua has joined Ruto, Raila, Uhuru in the top echelons of the politics of this country is no longer in doubt. That he's first among equals in the opposition ranks, again, is no doubt. Because if they had been his equal, if they had been his match, we could have seen activity when he was out. There wasn't much activity. One could argue, as indeed I have explained it before, That is a matter of style. Gachagua is playing his style of politics using the masses, the people, mobilization, along the lines of what people like Raila Odinga do. Kalonzo Musyoka and the rest, Maraga, would be doing it in their own style. But if we stick strictly with Kenyan politics, where the weight of a politician is felt through his interaction with the masses, with the people, then Gachagua is king. He joins Raila Odinga, Ruto and the rest, and one or two others, Uhuru Kenyatta. And that his colleagues in the opposition are not in his league. He's way ahead of them. Which gets me thinking, how is opposition going to handle that one aspect that is so critical to 2027? When you have the most powerful politician in the opposition not being seen as a possible presidential candidate. It was always haunting the Raila team from 2007, the Pentagon. Fred Gumo, Kangumu, he told Musalia Mudavadi, Jeremiah Nyaga, Najib Balala, William Ruto, Musalia Mudavadi, he told them, look here, let's not cheat ourselves. The captain of the Pentagon ship is none other than Raila Odinga. You can pretend, but doesn't help you. They chose not to listen. They all went into an election, a nomination of sorts. I think it's Balala who pulled up, who gave up the race publicly during the nomination day. The rest went in, and Raila whitewashed them. Like they say, the rest is history. Come 2013, there was there was debate as to who, but obviously it was Raila. In 2017, there was a talk of, oh, Kalonzo Musyoka, I assisted you, now it's my turn, oh. In 2017, NASA, oh, there was an agreement, oh, next time it will be me. But it was always clear that it will be Raila Odinga. First among equal, clearly ahead of the pack. And for Mwai back in 2002, even though the Tosha thing defined everything and sealed the fate of all others who wanted to run, leaving space for Mwai Kibaki, it was always obvious when Mwai Kibaki, Charity Ngilu, and the late Wamalwa Kijana were having endless meetings in hotel, forcing some people to say, what are two men doing with one woman in hotels? It was always obvious that Mwai Kibaki was way ahead of Wamalwa Kijana and Charity Ngilu. And even when they formed that National Rainbow Coalition, NAC, the unbogable moments, it was still obvious. It was still obvious Mwai Kibaki was ahead of the pack. So now, what is the opposition going to do this time? Now that it has been demonstrated beyond doubt that Rigathi Gachagua is ahead of the pack. It's going to be a headache to them. How does a man who is clearly ahead of the rest give way for those who are much weaker than him? This is the question the opposition is going to have to wrestle with. Arguments have been advanced about impeachment and therefore being barred from running from office. I don't buy into that argument because that is not going to stop Rigathi Gachagua. Uhuru and Ruto being indicted for international crimes against humanity and charged at The Hague did not stop them from running in the year 2013. You're not going to stop Gachagua because of some impeachment. I'm also certain, as our law state, until you've exhausted all mechanisms in court, all the mechanisms in court, nobody can bar you from running. I do not see how this case can end before 2027. And even if it were to get to the final stage in the Supreme Court, I do not see how the Supreme Court having identified along the way, all the way from the initial stages where the case has been, because the case hasn't even started, with all the flaws we witnessed, how the Supreme Court can find Gachagua to be barred from running from office. They may find it too difficult to reverse anything, but they will not support the idea that is barred from running. So I don't see that impeachment standing in his way. There's also another argument, which is a very strong argument, that this Kikuyu Kalenjin thing should be broken. And Uhuru Kenyatta talked about it, and many people have talked about it. And many senior Kikuyu politicians, Charles Njonjo, Joe and Julian Macharia, SK Macharia, and others, they said, in the interest of peace in this country and harmony and togetherness, we need a sustainable arrangement where we need to break that seesaw. And therefore, people have been arguing this is the time to break that. So that stands in the way of Gachagua, much more seriously than the impeachment. Together with that, there is the belief that that sacrifice from Mount Kenya, that they don't want to be presidential candidate, they don't even want running mate, will give impetus to the opposition campaign in a manner nothing else could do. But that notwithstanding, the devil, the elephant in the room of the most powerful politician stepping aside for much weaker candidates is a challenge the opposition is going to have to deal with. And to Gachagua himself. How is he going to handle this animal? In deciding in deciding whether or not to run, it's going to be a big, big headache to Gachagua. You see, you have it. It is you who can wrestle the thing down. You can wrestle this arrangement where you are the one on the steering wheel, steering the ship to dock it safely. And yet you must leave the reins of the ship to another person. How much do you trust that person? So I want to introduce another problem, and this is a big challenge, and it affects Rigathi Gachagua. When you look at the possible contenders, there is always something in the mind, some doubt. First, as to whether they can make it. You believe in yourself, you are Gachagua. You know you can do it. But because of those other circumstances and reasons we've given, you are forced to identify another person. So there's that doubt in your mind. Among these people, is there somebody who can do it? Can they deliver? More specifically, can Kalonzo beat William Ruto? Can Matiang'i beat Ruto? Can Natembeya beat Ruto? Is Eugene a match for Ruto? In short, want Ruto have these people for breakfast? That must be eating Gachagua. The other doubt, and this is much more serious, is how can you trust these guys? I don't envy Gachagua. He's in a very tight spot. How sure are you that these people are not moles? How sure are you these people will not be managed along the way? How sure are you some of these guys have not been planted there? I don't envy Gachagua. He has an enviable task ahead of him. In first deciding not to run. And secondly, after deciding not to run and therefore to support somebody, who to support? Because there's that alliance between Ruto and Raila. And there is that fear that Uhuru Kenyatta may join that alliance. If Uhuru Kenyatta were to join that alliance, Ruto, Raila, that's a powerful alliance. First of all, let's start there. It's powerful. And therefore the doubt about their ability comes to play much more now. If Ruto, Raila, and Uhuru are together, the choice of who to face, who to give to face them to Gachagua is a serious choice. Because now you are dealing with a machinery that is impossible. But more importantly, in this team, there are one or two people who are so much under Uhuru's spell that it will be difficult to believe that if Uhuru came knocking, Matiang'i would not listen to him. And it could come at the wrong moment. That if Uhuru came knocking, Kalonzo would not listen to him. And it could come at such a crucial moment that the moment they succumb, the opposition is gone. And therefore, those looking at the 2027 equation must know the sort of challenge the eagle is facing. The eagle has landed, but the eagle lands to confirm that indeed he is the super eagle in the terrain called Kenya in terms of opposition politics. And waking up today to the reality after briefings from his people that indeed the people he's working with are relatively much lower. He's way ahead of them in terms of the capacity and abilities to play politics leading to a face-off with William Ruto in 2027. That, to me, is a challenge one Rigathi Gachagua is going to have to face and deal with much more than any other challenge. Once again, congratulations to Harambee Stars for reaching this far and for making us immensely proud.